Hello and welcome back to the Cosmic Library, where you can read the greatest stories in all of the multiverse. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
And I am Justin.
We are doing the show in conjunction with Second Union. To read more of the latest headlines and entertainment, please visit our website at wearesecondunion.com. Man, it has been a busy week. And Jesse was there for half of it.
Me.
Oh, dude. I had to fly to Central California to take part in a wrestling show at East Bay Pro Wrestling. It was going to be at Supreme Pro Wrestling, but there was a lot of last-minute changes, and the storyline I was involved with kind of disappeared. So instead of begging for a spot, somebody arranged for it to happen at East Bay instead, which is quite a while away from where I thought I was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still cool. It was a fun show. East Bay, honestly, is probably the most put-together indie fed I've ever seen in my life. They have a home base. They have a system for filming vignettes and promos that they can publish that night. They have a record-keeping system. It's all really cool.
Oh, sounds good.
You even have a full-on dressing room instead of just room not being used at the moment. But it was a fun night. I got hit in the face twice.
Ow.
It's okay. It wasn't hurt. It was just part of the story.
Gotcha.
Although I admit to nearly screwing it up.
What happened?
Well, there was a birthday party that night. And of course I'm dressed up in my Mario costume, which gets me more attention than I'm usually comfortable with from kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I was supposed to be managing the good guys on this 6-man tag. And in the midst of it all, the heavyweight champion who was on the other team spat on one of my guys.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and there was this pregnant pause from the crowd when they all went, ooh. And in the middle of this pause, I yelled out, kick his butt, but it wasn't the word butt that I used. Mm-hmm. And as soon as that sentence left my face, I realized I was standing in front of the birthday party.
Oh, no.
Thankfully no one was mad or anything, and they just kind of considered it part of the show. But even in the moment, I was just like, oh.
Oops.
You messed up.
Yeah.
Mouth, insert foot.
Yeah, that was too much. I admit that was too much. But I saw the birthday boy after the show was over, and he had a great time, and the kids were all really nice, and so were the moms there. So it was a really nice evening. Other than that, I went back to work today, and my workplace has been hacked.
Ooh.
Yeah, they have ransomware. So do several other law firms and a couple of the boards down here.
Wow.
Ooh,
Yeah, they think they can have the systems back up to Thursday. So what I basically found out today is that I'm pretty good at filing, and I have really big thumbs.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you two? How are you all doing?
Well, better this week than last week. I was in a fender bender last week.
Right.
Car's fixable.
Good.
Yeah.
When-
Don't brake check, kids.
What's the calendar on it? When do they think they can get it back to you?
Probably this Friday.
Okay. That's not awful.
Yeah. No.
All right. How about you, Jesse? How you doing?
I'm discovering things were much tougher when I was younger.
Okay.
How so?
Not sure how to take that sentence.
But you got naps and juice boxes. And
Oh,
you have
no,
to pay
no.
Rent.
No. We just got a new product in my store. Now and later's.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah,
love those.
I love them too. But I remember back in the day, they were tough as hell to chew.
Yeah, they were bricks.
I remember losing a tooth to one.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, but these now and later's are like soft.
Well, they changed the formula.
They made them chewy?
They are chewy.
Why change a thing that shouldn't be changed? You
I
just,
don't know.
Pop one in your mouth for 4 hours and you still got it in your cheek.
Is this the new standard? Because last I heard there was both a standard formula and a chewy formula.
I don't know. This looks like the hard candy that I'm familiar with, but it's not.
So remember how they used to come in little packs of 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they were squares, and then the chewy ones I think are bigger squares, just singular.
Okay.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
It's
I
been
don't know.
it's been a very long time since I dealt with now and laters, but I do want to ask you a question real quick, Joanna.
Sure.
Did you turn into a droid and I wasn't paying attention?
Yes.
Okay. Everything sounds like your voice is being modulated through something, like you're trying to protect yourself during a news interview about I don't know what.
I don't know why. Here,
That's
let me
better.
switch off my Wi-Fi.
Okay, that's
Yep.
much better now.
I'm using my phone data instead of the Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to get that clear. I know things are pretty fancy nowadays, but I just wanted to be sure I was talking to a person and not something that had passed the Turing tests.
I'm an android. Take me to your leader. I
See-
need to pet more cats.
See, I always suspected that about women.
Hey.
Easy. Do not hurt me. I've already had my head slapped in
You're
recently.
several states away, but I will get on a plane.
Yes,
I'll
I'm
bring
very
my
aware of this.
cats.
I know. Be hucking cats at me from 10,000 feet. The subject of this week is Volume 1 of the 2018 version of West Coast Avengers from Marvel Comics. We will talk about that after the news of the past week, and we tend to start with Marvel comic news. This is where we talk about all the intellectual properties currently owned by Disney and where they are heading in the upcoming months. And we know about a few things that are happening in the near future. We know about the incoming event that's starting this month, something about a cosmic murder that affects the entirety of the Marvel Universe. We also know about the Outlawed one-shot that comes in March that is going to seriously change the rules regarding being a teenage superhero in Marvel. There is something new to add to that list. A teaser was released for what Marvel is calling the, quote, most earth-shattering event of 2020, unquote. They're calling it Empire. And that's spelled E-M-P-Y-R-E.
Okay.
There was a video that was released where Marvel's editor-in-chief, C.B. Cebulski, begins to describe the event, and then most of his words are bleeped out.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that doesn't mean he started swearing like a sailor, it just means that there's something new coming.
Did he turn into R2-D2?
I don't believe so. And there's a few clues in a tweet, and I say clues because several words are redacted out of the tweet. Starting blank of 2020 and spilling out of the pages of the monumental incoming, prepare for Empire. It's a story of blank and blank. You won't believe you're blank. Unquote.
This is like Mad Libs from middle school.
A bit. If I had to take a guess, though, because the way this is redacted, it's in blocks, or numbered like a number of blocks instead of straight black bars. I would guess that since this is a month that has 5 letters in it, this is going to be March of 2020. I don't know any other month that has 5 letters in it.
August?
That's 6.
That's 6, yeah.
June is 4. July is 4. May is 3.
April.
Oh, there is April. True. That is true. Blank and blank, I don't know. It's words of 7 and 6. No. 6 and 5 letters.
Vampire?
I believe that's 7.
Sometimes it's Vampire. Oh, yeah, that's 7. Sometimes it's spelled with a Y.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the incoming event that's supposed to set up Empire is supposed to be a murder mystery, and the victim's identity is supposed to be part of a deep dive into Marvel history. Incoming is scheduled to go on sale December 25th, this Christmas, with creators including Al Ewing, Dan Slott, Chip Zdarsky, Kelly Thompson, Greg Pak, Eve Ewing, Matt Rosenberg, Ed Brisson, Saladin Ahmed, Teenie Howard, Jonathan Hickman, Greg Pak, Donny Cates, Jason Aaron, Humberto Ramos, and Jim Chung. And that's the event before Empire. So it appears Marvel has set up a couple of events that are going to spin out of each other.
Cool.
Also, Marvel is hearkening back to one of its prior well-known events. Now, I will admit, I've never actually read Marvels. Anybody else?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay, Marvels was released back in 1994. It was a series that pretty much showed how regular people in the Marvel Universe see Marvel heroes and their big events. Think of them as bystanders, telling the story as to how the world reacts to the Fantastic.
Okay.
Well, Kurt Busiek is going to oversee a new series of 8 double-sized one-shots called Marvel's Snapshots. So they're going to dive a little bit deeper into the Marvel's version of storytelling, except now they're updating certain things to coincide with newer segments of Marvel history. Alex Ross, who illustrated Marvel's, is working on an anthology series called Marvel and will provide covers to the Snapshots single issues.
Those are going to be awesome.
Regarding the series, executive editor Tom Brevoort said, quote, "The Marvel Snapshots books will provide a different perspective on moments throughout Marvel history, while also giving a wide range of talent, many of whom are new to Marvel, a chance to play in our sandbox under the expert watch of Kurt Busiek," unquote. The first of the books, Marvel Snapshot number 1, focuses on the Submariner. It's going to be written by Alan Brennert and Jerry Ordway, who worked on Crisis on Infinite Earths. The Submariner one-shot will be set in World War II and feature Namor in addition to Betty Dean and the All-Winners Squad. Man, if you're not familiar with large segments of Marvel history, this is your chance to learn something.
Yeah. Cool.
Any Star Wars fans in the house?
Yes.
Casual.
Any Bounty Hunters fans in the house?
Oh, yes.
Haven't seen it yet.
Okay, then you're...
It's so good.
Well, I think both of you are going to enjoy this in different ways. Marvel has announced that there is a new Star Wars series coming in March of 2020.
Yay.
And it's called Star Wars Bounty Hunters. It is going to focus on various bounty hunters that are well known to deep dive fans of Star Wars. The first 2 covers tease the involvement of fan favorites including Boba Fett and Bossk.
Oh, cool.
Leading the series will be a new character called Baylert Valance. The writer of the series is going to be Ethan Sachs. The artist is Paolo Vianelli. The series is described as diving into the darkest corners of the galaxy far, far away and exploring the seedy world of bounty hunters. Apparently, Sachs has been a fan of the various bounty hunters in Star Wars since seeing them in The Empire Strikes Back in 1980. Mm-hmm. He further said, quote, "I'm channeling that wonder from The Empire Strikes Back and beyond in Bounty Hunters, which will be a high-octane action romp through the Star Wars underworld of Hutts and Fets," unquote. The official synopsis for the book reads, quote, "The series follows cyborg bounty hunter Baylert Valance as he seeks revenge on mentor-turned-betrayer Nakano Lash, who has recently resurfaced under mysterious circumstances. But Valance isn't the only mercenary looking for Lash, and he soon finds himself on a collision course with Boba Fett, Bossk, and a slew of new killers," unquote. Do you remember who Bossk is?
Unfamiliar.
In the scene in The Empire Strikes Back, when you see a group of bounty hunters standing there,
Mm-hmm.
he is the lizard man in the X-Wing flight uniform.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. Okay.
So, he's visually well known, although a lot of people may not be aware he has a name.
Lizardman has a name? What? We give those to non-humans?
Well, somebody had to. The question is whether his name came from the expanded universe or somebody else in production actually gave it to him.
I know his name was thrown around a lot in the expanded universe.
Yeah, I'm sure stories were made about him. That's always kind of the double-edged sword of the expanded universe. A lot of it was based so much on fan theories that you're not absolutely sure which ones were written and which ones were made up.
Well, according to my knowledge, most of it's really made because Lucas really didn't make up anything.
No, Lucas was very narrow-focused when it came to his productions. There were his characters, and then the rest were just flotsam.
Mm-hmm.
So it left
all about the Skywalkers.
Yeah, it left a lot of gaps. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about one thing that's recently bothered me about the original trilogy.
What?
The quick rise of Han Solo to General.
Yeah, but then again, they're kind of hard up for leaders.
No, I'm not arguing that they weren't hard up for leaders, but tracking what he did. Okay, he showed up with their kidnapped princess, immediately demanded a bounty, was prepared to fly away. Then mysteriously reappears at the end of the Battle of the Death Star. It was a key moment, but still not exactly one of those things where it says, okay, we should follow that guy. So, after that, he follows the evacuation to Hoth, where he seems to demand more goods so he can repair a ship and just GTFO. And before he can do that, the base was attacked, and again, he has to make a rapid escape. And then he goes to see his best friend, who betrays him. He's frozen in carbonite. He's gone for X amount of time. He's rescued by Luke, Leia, and several others. And then when he's defrosted, hey, you're a general.
By the way, here you go.
Well, when you're a princess, you can really do what you want.
Yeah,
I know, but
I was just going to say, one of the perks of dating a princess.
Absolutely true, but there's still nothing in his history that said he can lead men.
Maybe she did it
That's fair.
to make him stay, or
Wow, that's like giving your that's like giving your boyfriend a really expensive ring and saying, please stay.
Or a puppy, but he already had Chewbacca. So
Right.
That would be a conflict of interest.
and please don't hurt me when I say this, a ball and chain.
Like I
Here's some
said,
responsibility. Grow up, will ya?
like I
might
said,
make
it was
something out of you.
it was just one of those things where I'm running it through my head, and all of a sudden it just occurred to me like a couple nights ago. Wow, he made general by doing absolutely nothing
And disobeying direct orders, if I recall correctly.
multiple times.
And sassing back to the princess, although, she likes that, so.
Yeah. Well,
Admittedly, he was successful in everything he did.
no, he was not. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in
No.
carbonite.
Someone else had to save his butt.
Yeah, he made a series of bad decisions through Empire. He just happened to. They happened to be more subtle than the bad decisions Luke was making at the same time. Even his raid at the Shield base on Endor went very poorly.
Uh-huh.
Moving forward in Marvel news, though, Marvel has a new Kingpin.
Okay.
Yeah?
If you've been keeping up with the Daredevil comics, you know that Wilson Fisk is mayor of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a novel approach to crime, wherein more or less he gives lower criminals a chance to do some of the things they want to do. In exchange, they don't make any loud noises or disrupt New York City. Except there is one guy who's decided that he doesn't want to follow anyone's rules, and he is trying to take over the basically the power vacuum the Kingpin left behind now that he's gone semi-legit. And that man is Leland Owsley.
Really?
Yeah.
Not familiar with that name.
In Daredevil comics, he's known as the Owl.
Mm-hmm.
He has a couple of bizarre kind of abilities. He tends to glide, carry some metal claws underneath his jacket. He's not one of those guys that you think of as intimidating classically in comics. He's more or less something that was created around a theme. Except now he is much more dangerous. He's willing to kill, and he's starting to intimidate the other criminal leaders in New York. He even calls himself the new Kingpin.
What does the old Kingpin have to say about that?
This is relatively recent, so I'm not sure he's happy. However, some of the other crime lords are starting to align with each other. This includes the underground matriarch Izzy and Hammerhead. So, yeah, the Kingpin's life basically has gotten more complicated. It's one of those points you almost wish that Daredevil was doing better at these things than he was.
Did he come back to being Daredevil?
I'm still kind of unclear. After the first volume of that book, I have not gone back. I've been a little busy, although I really, really want to. That left it on such a cliffhanger, the first 5 issues of the latest Daredevil. I've wanted to go back and find out how that resolves. And it does occur to me in the books I've read subsequently, it's not like Matt Murdock's made any sudden cameos or appearances. He's gone completely underground, whatever he's doing. Meanwhile, Absolute Carnage is over. The god of symbiotes, Null, has been awoken. Is apparently on his way to Earth. Except that is not Eddie Brock's only problem right now. He's also been dealing with the Maker. Anyone?
Guessing that's the counterpart to Null?
No, it's worse than you think. The Maker is known as Reed Richards.
Oh, damn.
The Reed Richards from Earth, I believe it's 1610?
The ultimate Marvel, yeah.
Yeah. This is one that has used his weird stretching powers to give himself a bigger brain pan. Then he started working on himself, so he's expanded his own mental capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a bit wacky. But he's been working in the regular Marvel universe since he survived, I guess you could say, all the weird celestial incursions and the Secret Wars. He's been working with someone, but that wasn't revealed until very, very recently in Venom number 20, by Donny Cates and Iban Coelho. I've heard this name passed around several times. I thought it was a joke. The maker is working for the Council of Reeds.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now, before you accuse this of being a Rick and Morty ripoff, grant you I do not read Fantastic Four in the regular, so I wasn't aware this has been around this long. The Council of Reeds has been around since 2009 in Fantastic Four number 570. This is a group of various Reed Richards from across the multiverse who come together to make the multiverse a better place. The only problem is the people within the Council of Reeds each had to leave their universe behind when they created their headquarters in a space between universes. Most of the Council was believed to have died fighting Celestials, but they returned in Marvel 2-in-1 Annual #1 during an adventure with Doctor Doom, The Thing, the Human Torch, and Dr. Rachna Kaul. So apparently the Maker is trying to abandon all universes and become a member of the Council of Reeds.
Interesting.
But the only way they'll grant him admittance is if he somehow restores the Ultimate Universe.
Oh.
I guess that's what's holding up his potential membership, is that he doesn't come from a universe like the others. His is gone. So if he can put it back somehow, he'll be granted admittance. I can't decide if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Granted, there are some things from the Ultimate Universe that could go back.
Yeah, I will say that, but I also have this image of a bunch of Reed Richards standing around trying to solve problems, and I keep thinking, that many Reed Richards talking, there would be a whole bunch of dialogue and probably almost nothing getting done.
Yeah, it put me to sleep in about 4 minutes.
Yeah, that wouldn't be my version of interesting. What is my version of interesting is that in the recent Doom 2099 one-shot by Chip Zdarsky and Marco Castiello, they finally solved one of the longest-standing mysteries of the 2099 universe.
Oh.
Yeah, they finally answered, who is Doom 2099?
Oh.
Since the character was introduced back in 1999, he was introduced as a man who had a perfectly clean and managed face, but for some reason had a lot of memories that told him he is Victor Von Doom. And I don't remember who this person ran into the first times he was wandering around, but he had an old version of Doom armor on. Somebody pulled off the mask, saw this perfectly clean face, and just said, well, I'll make you look like Doom, and then, scarred his face all up. It's at this point that whoever this is recreates the armor with more modern technology and is then known as Doom, and he's been running around in 2099 making things... Well, he's been doing very Doom things, basically, since then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, in the one-shot, 2099 Doom suddenly encounters somebody wearing an old version of his armor. This is somebody who's been out in the wastelands, somewhere in the non-incorporated areas of the future world, who's been gathering people to his side. And this person does have a very scarred-up face, but is also a very technically minded individual. When the two Dooms meet each other, they start talking in techno-speak about how this newer guy makes his armor work in these ways that, Doom 2099 himself has trouble with. But it's one of those conversations where it's very technical in its pseudo-science speak, but is also kind of dry.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it gets interesting. The person in the Doom armor, the 2099 one, that is Victor Von Doom.
Not surprised, actually.
He was actually forced into a time machine against his will, and it went off when his castle was collapsing around him. And the sudden time jaunt mixed up his memory. So that is the man himself.
Oh, I was wondering if it's going to be a clone or displaced into another body or something like that.
Well, that's the other thing, because Doom and this weird pretender got into a fight, and Doom managed to knock this man down. And when he was unconscious, suddenly his arms grew extremely long.
Uh-oh.
The person that pushed Doom into that time machine was Reed Richards.
Mm-hmm.
And because of a fight that the two of them were having while the time machine was going off, Doom managed to scar Richards' face, which is why when Richards woke up with his technological acumen and pieces of Doom's armor, the people around him thought, this must be Doom. So the two of them have actually managed to travel into their own future at some point. Which is actually kind of scary, considering there was a one-shot where the robot Herbie has gone insane and is trying to rebuild the Fantastic Four. It tried to do it with 4 people, 3 out of 4 died, and then it decided that this particular experiment had failed. Herbie killed the 4th and was getting ready to start the experiment over.
Yikes.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that between the two of them, Doom seems like a rational choice.
That's terrifying.
Isn't it, though? Well, we have to circle back around to something we talked about 2 weeks ago. Remember if Spider-Woman is getting a new series?
Mm-hmm.
She's getting a new #1. I believe it debuts in, I want to say March. Oh, no. It's, apparently it's going to be in January. It's coming out much sooner than I thought. And you guys recall the cover? It was Spider-Woman jumping out of an exploding helicopter in her classic costume. They're not using the one from the Chris Anka redesign in 2014.
Okay.
You don't recall that?
I don't.
Wow. I've met goldfishes that have better recall.
Wow.
Hey, you didn't remember either.
We're not making this about me.
Uh-huh. Okay. Nice deflection. That is the cover I was referring to. It's a very nice digital painted cover.
Yes.
The thing is, that is not the cover.
What?
It was revealed today that that is the alternative cover, the variant cover. The actual cover... Oh? The actual cover actually has Jessica Drew in a new costume that was just revealed today.
Oh, really?
Yep. It is not Chris Anka's redesign either. It is not the original, but it falls somewhere close to Miles Morales, believe it or not.
Oh, it's more stealthy, like we were talking about.
Yes, it is a primarily black bodysuit with a red spider symbol on it, red webs on the shoulders and the tops of the arms only, red webbed fingers, and a few yellow triangles in the important places. For some reason, a yellow triangle is like one of the basic symbols of Spider-Woman, the original one anyway, and I don't quite know how that works, but it's true. So this is the outfit that will be her regular look going forward in the series.
Wow, I like that. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
it's more stealthy for crawling around at dark.
That's what I thought. My first impression was, I don't know, but the more I looked at it, I'm just like, this actually does make a lot of sense.
Honestly, I would agree with you with the stealthy part, except for the yellow that just throws me off.
Oh, it's a harken back to her original costume. There was a character sheet or a character model that was released as well that I sent to you guys. I imagine this is going to be closer to the art look within the series itself. The art's by Pere Perez.
Nice.
That actually does look like something somebody could sneak around in a building in.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually like how her hair and the costume blend very well together.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if the triangles actually do something.
It's possible. I mean, Drew has been a private investigator lately, so it could be a number of different items in there.
I say it because they got the triangles on the back of her caps, too.
I don't know about that in particular. If the ones on the hands, if I had to guess, maybe they help focus her Venom Blast. She was the first one able to do that in as far as the Spider family. I believe she still glides. I don't think she can straight fly.
Yeah, it's a glide.
So, I do approve of this. And they finally released a solicit for this new series. It's going to be written by Carla Pacheco, and the paragraph reads, quote, "Whether it's hunting Skrulls or taking down Hydra, Spider-Woman's adventures made her a favorite of readers for decades. And in March 2020, she'll be embarking on a brand new one in Spider-Woman #1. The enigmatic Avenger has always been as mysterious as she is fearless, and her latest series opens with her not quite feeling herself. Looking for fresh thrills, Spider-Woman takes on a job that puts her in the crosshairs of an all-new enemy. She soon finds herself caught in a web of intrigue, surrounded by unknown foes bent on her destruction. With danger on all sides and her deadly past coming to haunt her, Spider-Woman is in for an action-packed ride, and she wouldn't have it any other way." Unquote.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, although part of me still misses the last series she had with Dennis Hopeless. That was incredibly fun. When, God, who was it? Carol Danvers, I think, convinced Tony Stark to ask her directly who the father of her baby was.
Was that ever answered?
Uh, sort of. She doesn't know directly who the father is. The answer is much more normal than you would believe. She was feeling that she was getting older and wanted a family, so she went for in vitro fertilization.
Oh, all right.
She doesn't know directly who the father is and doesn't care.
Interesting.
It is kind of unusual for a character like this to just kind of decide she wants a family and decides to have a baby.
That's fair.
Yeah. When the answer came, and I think the fifth or sixth issue of that series, I just kind of blinked and went, "That's surprisingly normal. I like it." Considering her history after what happened with the Skrulls, it could have been a number of things. I think somebody even said it was Hawkeye, and Hopeless even made fun of his own series when he had Carol Danvers look at a pregnant Jessica Drew, and she said, "You know that the internet believes I'm the father, right?" Speaking of older characters who are going to get new series, there's a new miniseries coming out, and this one promises to get dangerous. It is not. It doesn't have to do with a duck. Be quiet.
Aww.
A cult favorite character is getting a brand new limited series, and the title of this limited series is Revenge of the Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Ooh, yay!
It's being written by Dennis Hopeless Hallam with art by Scott Hepburn, and they describe it as bringing him back to his roots in his origin as a future version of Frank Castle.
Hmm.
It's actually going to have two stories going on. The first issue is scheduled to release tomorrow, December 18th. And they're looking to strike a balance between the cosmic comedy of Cosmic Ghost Rider and the tragic lust for a twisted version of justice inherent in Frank Castle. It will also have backup stories from Cosmic Ghost Rider's creator, Donny Cates, and Jeff Shaw, who worked alongside Dennis Hallam to pass the torch for the new series. In an interview with Newsarama, Dennis Hallam said, quote, "Cosmic Ghost Rider is a very powerful being with a very convoluted origin story who has a very simple mission statement. He's flying around the cosmos, punishing the wicked with extreme prejudice. That's his job. That's his obsession. That's where we find him," unquote. So Newsarama decided to ask what Cosmic Ghost Rider was up against, and Hallam said, quote, "Frank's pursuing a new badass intergalactic crime boss running amok, and Cosmic Ghost Rider comes after him. Unfortunately for Frank, the ever-so-humble Cosmic King is every bit as smart as he is terrifyingly powerful. Instead of coming straight at the Punisher / Spirit of Vengeance / power cosmic wielding sociopath, he's gone after Frank's immortal soul," unquote. That's a novel way to attack him.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds dangerous to me.
Yeah, it does. Can you attack the soul of a Ghost Rider without encountering the Spirit of Vengeance within it?
We'll find out, I guess.
Something tells me the Cosmic King is going to end up a page pretty soon. In the March issue of the upcoming X-Men series, 8 and 9, it looks like the X-Men's cosmic influence is going to get a little bit murky. Because in 8 and 9, the Starjammers have returned to Earth, and the Shi'ar, the Imperial Guard, and the Brood have come with them.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that is a lot of things to break down for people who may not be aware of what all that is. The Starjammers are a group of intergalactic pirates and formerly escapees of the Shi'ar Empire, led by Cyclops' father, Chris Summers, also known as Corsair. The Imperial Guard are the Shi'ar's Imperial Guard. They work for the leader of the Empire, and they come from all over the... they're pretty much made up of the best and brightest from all the worlds of the Empire. The person in charge of the Imperial Guard is the Gladiator. Purple Superman with a mohawk would be the short version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the leader of the Empire? The Gladiator is currently in charge, although he is desperate to hand over the reins to Xandra, who is the daughter of Charles Xavier and their former Empress, Lilandra. And then there's the Brood. The Brood, in short, are basically xenomorph aliens as designed by Rob Liefeld.
Zerglings, got it.
Yeah, that is the short version. You know, they infect other beings and they transform them into Brood, which is how new ones are created. However, Brood can also be hatched like eggs from a queen. Actually, now that I've said that out loud, I'm not exactly clear how their procreation works, and now I don't want to know.
Nope.
Needless to say, that's a whole lot of intergalactic coming to Earth.
Yeah. On the bright side, though, as of issues 8 and 9, not only have the Starjammers returned to Earth, but the New Mutants have as well.
Oh, how'd they get back?
Well, this stuff is being released in March of 2020, so I don't know yet. However, last up in Marvel comic news, Wave 2 of the X-Men books, post Dawn of X, just keeps expanding slowly. We've heard about the new Wolverine series, the Moira X series, or mini-series, actually. The Hellion series, which has a team we're still trying to puzzle out. But add to that, in March of 2020, young Cable is getting his first solo series.
Oh, cool.
It's being written by Jerry Dugan, and the art is by Phil Noto. According to what little information we have, this series will follow the young version of Nathan Summers as he continues the Cable tradition of taking younger X-Men under his wing, with the series teasing that some of the first X-Men he will encounter will be Armor and Pixie. One of those is going to challenge him a lot. The other one, I think, will confound him more than he believes. But
Which one is which? Read on.
Yeah. Also on there are a couple of at least one creature who might be a mutant I'm unaware of, a green-faced mutant who seems vaguely familiar, Wolverine, who I think is not going to be a series part of the series, and unless I miss my guess, the Silver Samurai.
Really?
Yeah, which would be probably a resurrected mutant, because as far as I know, he's been dead in the comics for quite a while. Maybe he's somebody who's trying to teach Cable balance.
Maybe.
It's not like he gets a lot of that. But this will come out in March of 2020. I'm starting to believe that the Fallen Angels is going to fall away from the X-Men lineup. I have nothing against it, but it does seem to be meandering a little bit, and this is the second time we've seen a member of the Fallen Angels in a different series.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a guess. Next up, we have DC Comic News. This is where we talk about the other major company in comics and what storylines they have coming now and in the near future. Jeff Johns is promising that the finale of the Doomsday Clock miniseries leads into everything, as he puts it. CBR asked Johns, who previously described Doomsday Clock as one of the most personal things he's ever written, with the eve of the release of issue number 12. I believe that would be this week. And they want him to elaborate on why this is personal. He said, quote, "I think there's so many things in it, and I think that the last issue will trigger people to go back and reread and look more upon a second reading and notice maybe something that they didn't see before, which is what the book is all about. Seeing something you can't see, or seeing beyond your blind spots and seeing the other side another way. That's really what the book's about. The book is about a lot of things. It's the most sophisticated, or at least detailed story I've ever written, and when Gary Frank and I set off to do this thing, our goal was to do nothing less than that because that's what the material deserves. We were going to do everything we could to make this a story worthy of being told, and we never wanted to set out and do this book unless we believed in that totally. No one at DC came to me and said, hey, we want you to do a book with these characters. Doomsday Clock came from Gary and me. When I first did DC Rebirth and had the idea of this and wanted to introduce Dr. Manhattan and that viewpoint into the DC universe, that wasn't an editorial edict. That was about an idea that grew from conversations with Gary and me about everything. About life, about the world, about the DC universe, about comic books, about everything we're dealing with in and out of this story space. So it's a personal story in the sense that it really gets to the heart of a lot of things that Gary and I both see and feel, unquote. Okay, I have no problem with the concept of what he's talking about, but I'm still not seeing how Doomsday Clock ties into most of DC. It feels like we're in a very different place from when this miniseries started.
Yeah, 2 years out of place.
Yes, yeah, that's extremely fair. The series has been delayed so often, it might as well have been released in book form, frankly. And given that we've now had 12 issues of a lot of stuff, I'm not absolutely convinced we're going to see the fight between Superman and Dr. Manhattan we were promised in the solicits way back when.
Oh.
It's been 12 issues, or it's been 11 out of 12 issues already told, and unless that last issue is extremely oversized, I would think a reality warping fight between Dr. Manhattan and Superman would take a lot more space than what's left.
Mm.
So I'm considerably worried that we're just not going to get what we ought to get at this point.
Darn.
That's just how I feel about it. I could be utterly wrong, but that's what I see.
You only need one page to do a retcon punch.
And they still won't like it. Switching over to the other major hero in DC, Batman is getting it looks to be a new ongoing comic series. It's going to be called Batman the Dark Knight, and in 2020, in March, it's actually supposed to introduce a major new villain to Gotham. This is going to be Batman number 90, the start of James Tynion IV's second arc on the series, and the debut of Jorge Jimenez as series artist. The cover is by Jimenez, and according to the solicit, quote, "The mysterious master criminal known only as the Designer once brought together Gotham City's greatest criminals to plot the perfect crime. And now his plan has been unleashed upon the city in all of its might. Batman will go to any length to uncover the grand design, but Catwoman is the one who holds the greatest secret. If Batman wins against the Designer, he will lose everything," unquote. What do you guys think of that? Because I'm still processing it.
Just the name of the villain sounds like he might be tied in with the Court of Owls somehow.
That could be. The Designer is one of those names that somehow sounds very pompous yet very acute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's somebody who may actually have a very high mind, which is all well and fine. I'm a little concerned that the solicit reads that this guy has sought out to plot the perfect crime, as they put it, which sounded like a very 1970s storyline. How many of the characters in Batman series are really even concerned with the perfect crime as it is?
None. None as far as I know.
You know, that was a big deal in the 60s, big deal in the 70s, kind of a thing in the 80s, but crime just seems to be kind of passé when it comes to most of Batman's rogues gallery. All of them have individual purposes. And even though the closest one to being a run-of-the-mill criminal would probably be the Penguin, crime doesn't really seem to be his concern. Power is.
Yeah.
You know, I don't hear about characters who have crime for crime's sake on their mind anymore.
No, honestly, I hope there's some bit more grand than just that. I mean, the way that he's, again, despite his name alone, feels like he's involving Gotham City as a whole as part of his plan.
It does, and I guess this may be kind of a whipsaw type thing, because I know that Tom King is not everyone's favorite writer, so it could be that they're trying to change the tone very quickly from what King is up to where Tynion is comfortable. And I kind of hope that's not the case, because as much as I'm not a Batman fan, I still think King has been working on something important with the deconstruction of the character, and trying to really figure out where he goes when things do not go his way. Because given the way DC tends to editorialize Batman, just about everything goes his way. I just don't want to see it flip backwards all of a sudden. As a matter of fact, DC's had a couple creators that have had to react to a bit of a, believe it or not, an international controversy. The recent one-shot, The Dark Knight Returns: The Golden Child, hit shelves last week. It was written by Frank Miller, and I believe the art's by Rafael Grampa. Part of the art of The Golden Child was used in Hong Kong protests. At least a piece of promotional art was. It was an image of Carrie Kelly, who is now graduated to being the Batwoman, preparing to throw a Molotov cocktail with the caption, "The future is young." It was posted online as just an ad for the series, which shows Batwoman as a leader of, I guess you could say, counterculturalists, who are railing against the establishment. So as you can imagine, Hong Kong protesters very much empathized with the image and adopted it as one of their own. Less than a week after the art surfaced, it was deleted due to reported complaints by the Chinese government that the image had been co-opted by protesters. And then Miller and Grampa clarified that it had been removed initially due to inaccurate artistic credits before being restored. So both Miller and Grampa at CCXP in Brazil last week Both elaborated on their thoughts about the artwork's connection to protests. And according to Grompa, quote, people want something to be inspired by, and people are fighting for their freedom. This is what the Golden Child is. We're trying to tell a story about people thinking for themselves, unquote. And according to Miller, quote, the main thing I want people to take away from the comic is for them to put it down and say, boy, that was a good one. It looked beautiful. That's the goal. There are political entities out there so afraid of expression that they're afraid of a picture. They're going to collapse anyway, unquote.
Wow.
Right. Well, the Chinese government is very controlling over what their people see.
See, read, hear, a lot of it. You know, they control the internet in and out of the country. They're just not quite as locked down as North Korea about it.
That's true.
And they're nice enough to show them the sunrise.
Yeah, and
on the screen.
Well, the Hong Kong thing is a bit more complicated than a lot of other issues that are very similar, in that Hong Kong is dealing with Chinese rule, yes, but Hong Kong, for almost as long as I'd been alive, for a good 30 years of my life, was a British colony that reverted to Chinese rule in the late 90s, I want to say. So that is one of the few areas that's used to two very different styles of government, and the younger people have made a choice. You know, how that choice turns out, I can't say. I know how I would like it to, but I don't want to share that here because that's a very different subject. Jeff Johns, DC's was he still their creative officer? I don't know. But he's given fans an update on two of his most anticipated works. Batman the Three Jokers, and the third volume of Batman Earth 1. He said in a recent statement, quote, Gary and I are already finishing up Batman Earth 1 Volume 3, which we started before Doomsday Clock. We're about 3/4 or more done with that, so we're finishing that one up. Probably finish that up at the top of the year. I don't know when DC will put it out. And then, with Three Jokers, Jason Fabok and I are on the last issue of that. But, Three Jokers, Jay and I have been working on it, and we're on the last issue now. It's 3 double-sized, prestige format issues. That'll probably be solicited anytime because we're near the finish line, and we waited because we told DC we didn't want it to come out until we knew it would come out on time, unquote.
Good on him.
That's good on him. However, do most writers get that kind of credit where they just say, oh, hey, hold up on your work until I'm done?
Well, as important as Jeff Johnson, I think he has some clout.
I would think so, except I still wouldn't. I'm still surprised he has that much. I mean, editorial's got to be going insane that they've had a project basically on the books since, 18 months for a 3-issue mini, from what he's saying? With 3 Jokers?
Considering how much backlash you've been receiving from Doomsday Clock?
Well, that's the thing, though, is that I would still have to press Johns to actually finish it. He's been working on Doomsday Clock all this time. It's delayed. And 3 Jokers, he's not done with it. Batman Earth 1 Volume 3, he's not done with it. And he's only had one story where some people are working on 2 or 3. You know, especially as high up as he is in DC, there's almost not an excuse for him not to knuckle down and finish the scripts. So I'm not saying I hate the guy, I'm not denigrating the guy, but there is a certain point where somebody has to say, you need to finish this. They set up these stories 2, maybe 3 years ago. He needs to finish them. And detail is great and wonderful. It really is. But you got to pick it up. I mean, it's like I've talked to artists who say that they stopped doing interiors because they realized their art style was just too cumbersome. They couldn't finish them on time. So they started to specialize in, covers, or they did single issues or starting issues for series instead of being regular series artists. I just kind of wish Johns was that self-aware. 2 series in DC are returning to legacy numbering. What that means is series that have had stops and restarts, they're no longer going to be considered by their current numbering. They're going back to the total numbers of issues these characters have starred in. And this starts in 2020, January 22nd, with Wonder Woman 750. So she's getting her legacy numbering. And then The Flash is getting number 750 starting February 26th. How do you guys feel about that? I'm always kind of mixed on these types of things.
I just wish they would have picked one thing and stuck with it the whole way through.
I don't see the point.
Well, it creates these huge numbers, which implies large amounts of history and continuity. It could be a chance for DC to entice people to go back and buy back issues. Now, that being said, whereas Marvel tends to have ground-shaking events that have wide-reaching implications, DC events tend to rewrite history quite a bit. So I don't know how this move really benefits him other than saying, look, The Flash and Wonder Woman have issue counts almost as big as Superman and Batman. Let's get them there.
Yeah, except when you had to go back looking for those issues, and you're running and say, what happened to the numbers before this?
Actually, I think the better...
They were not printed that way.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take much research to figure that out. It's just, to me, it's just not as convenient, because even if you do go back and dig up those issues, you got to wonder which version of Diana Prince are we getting? Which version of Donna Troy is coming with it? Is this the one that is this the one that flies, or is this the one that needs the jet? You know, it's not even a case of which history. Actually, it is a case of which history are we getting, since her history changes so much between these retcon events.
Yeah, if they would just stop retconning, that'd be great.
I mean, even Wonder Woman 753, in 754 actually, Wonder Woman's going off-world to help Princess Maxima, the former ruler of Almerac. And Maxima's own history keeps changing as to whether she's a princess or a superhuman or an alien.
You know, they don't have to retcon so much if they kept the power scaling down.
Look, if we ever go back to the period where Wonder Woman is a slightly stronger than normal woman who loses all of her powers when she's tied up, that's it. I quit. I can't take it anymore.
I'm pointing fingers at Superman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Flash.
Maybe Batman.
The Flash himself is gaining some kind of new enemy called Paradox. And Paradox is using one of Flash's newer enemies, Godspeed, as Herald, Lieutenant. It depends on the word you want to use.
Sounds like some more time travel shenanigans.
With speedsters, there usually is. It's kind of become par for the course now that I think about it.
Yeah, maybe we should talk to Hank McCoy.
No. No, no, you do not talk to him about time. That will not help anyone.
We wouldn't be leaving anywhere for several years.
Well, Christopher Priest, now going by the name Priest, he claims he had to remind DC that Deathstroke, Slade Wilson, is a villain. He had a recent interview with Newsarama, and Priest said, quote, "He's an a-hole. Slade Wilson is not a nice man. He was never a nice man to begin with. DC's instinct is to protect their characters, and we've gone out of our way protecting Deathstroke, which is what made the finale so satisfying for me, as I was finally able to portray Deathstroke the way he should have always been. Ruthless, deadly, and totally unlikable. But how long could you sustain a series about someone that despicable?" Unquote. For the most part, DC let Priest have his way. He said, quote, "Oh, they let me do most of the things ultimately, but only after I reminded them that Deathstroke is a villain. Not a mercenary, not an anti-hero. He's a full-on jerk, and please write this down someplace, a supervillain." Unquote. It's true. There's been several series where Deathstroke is pretty much implied to be, you know, a mercenary with a gruff attitude, or, you know, almost likable or family-friendly at some points. Priest began his work on Deathstroke in 2016. It concluded with issue number 50, which also finished with the story arc Deathstroke R.I.P. that did see the character actually die. However, before anyone gets excited, it's comic books. He'll probably come back.
Of course.
Yeah.
Speaking of coming back, there's new gods coming.
New?
Remember when we read Justice League Odyssey?
Yes.
Darkseid has no home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't remember the event, but Apocalypse was destroyed. The sister planet where the new gods resided was also destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in solicits for March of 2020, Justice League Odyssey number 19 by Dan Abnett and Cliff Richards, in part of the solicit, it says that Darkseid is helping to birth a new era of new gods.
Uh-oh.
The solicit itself reads, quote, "Lost beyond the edge of the universe, the misfit team of Justice League Odyssey crosses paths with Epoch. The Lord of Time has a great plan to solve everything, but it might be the single most dangerous thing anyone has ever done. As Jessica Cruz and her team try to figure out if he's a genius, or crazy, or both, time is running out. A new threat is closing in on them, in the form of Darkseid's latest generation of lethal new gods, unquote. I guess the question I have is, are these new gods brand new characters? Or has Darkseid finally finished the corruption of Azrael, Starfire, and Cyborg into the kind of gods that a lot of the planets in the Lost Sector see them as?
That would be interesting.
Both kind of would be. I'm still a little mixed on the series because as much as I love the concept, it felt like they fell back into very classic tropes too quickly.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
So I'm mixed on whether or not I will dig into that. Last up in DC comic news, the March solicitations for 2020 did have a minor spoiler in them I don't think DC saw coming.
Oh.
Yeah, Aquaman number 58, but written by Kelly Sue DeConnick with art and cover by Robson Rocha. The solicitation gives a little bit of a spoiler as to Arthur's family.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, there's a baby in the water and the sharks are circling. Mara lies comatose following the birth of her child. And when it becomes clear that he who has the royal baby has royal power, Aquaman must flee with his young daughter. But will he be able to escape Ocean Master, who's been sharpening his trident as well as his plans for a takeover, with a loyal new army at his back? The hunt is on, and everything Arthur holds dear hangs in the balance, unquote. So
wow.
So we know that Arthur has a daughter this time around, not a son. And it appears it's a royal succession problem, with Mara, the Queen of Atlantis, comatose, and Arthur more or less in exile from Atlantis, or at least no longer a royal. Whoever has possession of the royal heir is the de facto person in charge.
Uh-oh.
You can see why Ocean Master wants this baby.
Uh-huh.
And with the thing in the sharks and the wordplay in it, just seems like he's going to lose his hand again.
There is that potentiality. However, I would like to hope that Kelly Sue DeConnick would avoid that trap.
Yeah.
But
again, just the word usage in that description, this kind of leans toward that a bit.
Well, there's a lot of growth potential for Aquaman in this story, only because his last attempts at family, A, have not gone well, and B, were, I think, 2 continuities ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we could actually tell the story of Aquaman trying to raise a daughter in a world that still thinks of him as the Justice League joke. There's a lot of storytelling potential here. As well as what this does to the relationship between Aquaman and Mara, which at best lately has been a lot like a separated couple. So I hope they follow through with this. I really do. Last up, we have our general comics and convention news. This is where we talk about comic books that are not Marvel or DC related, as well as conventions happening all around the world. Jesse and I talked a little bit last week while you were out, Joanna, because a surprising comic book ended up at number 1 of the November 2019 sales.
Oh, which one?
Well, we knew it had to be an X-Men book, given that it was the first month post-Dawn of X.
Of course.
We didn't expect it to be the New Mutants.
Really?
Yes. It was number 1, and I told Jesse I would look up the sales figures to find out how, just where all this landed, right? Turns out it landed really strong at 138,000 plus units. Now, these are not the ones bought by fans. These are the ones bought by comic book stores for sale to fans.
Mm-hmm.
But that still was almost 21,000 units above the next best-selling comic book.
Whoa.
Which was the X-Men series, believe it or not. The second issue of X-Men. As a matter of fact, if I was DC, I'd be really upset with November. Because their first comic book landed in the top 10 at position number 9, and that's Batman number 82. That was their only comic book in the top 10. And it wasn't even above the highest selling independent book that month. Undiscovered Country by Image Comics came in at number 8.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if I was DC, I'd be upset with how November shook out. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at positions 11 through 20, and there are 3 DC comics in there. Batman number 83, Justice League number 35, and Batman White Knight Presents Von Freeze number 1. So in the top 20 comic books, Only 4 of them were by DC. 3 of them were Batman books.
Hmm.
This goes back to a conversation we've been having for a while.
Yep.
But, yeah, if I was working at Marvel, I'd be really happy with the top 10. In order. Number 1, New Mutants. Number 2, X-Men number 2. Number 3, Absolute Carnage number 5. Number 4, X-Force number 1. Number 5, Fallen Angels number 1. Number 6, Deadpool number 1. Number 7, Amazing Spider-Man number 33. 8 was Undiscovered Country. 9 was Batman. Number 10, Amazing Spider-Man 34. There's a lot for them to smile about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then positions 11 through 14 were all Marvel Comics. Venom 20, Scream Curse of Carnage number 1, Captain Marvel number 12, New Mutants number 2, then it's Batman 83, then it's Excalibur number 2, then Justice League 35, then it's X-Force number 2, then it's Batman White Knight Von Freeze number 1, then it's Spawn number 302. Wow. Legion of Superheroes number 1 didn't even land in the top 20. It hit at 21.
Wow.
Huh. There's a lot to pay attention to, but yeah, if I was working a boardroom over at Warner Brothers, I'd be talking to a lot of people right now. There's a number of announcements regarding Transformers conventions. First off, regarding TFCon in Orlando in 2020. This happens March 20th through 22nd. This will be happening at the Doubletree by Hilton at the entrance to Universal Orlando. They've announced Jose Delbo is attending his first ever Transformers convention. Jose Delbo worked as the primary artist on the original Transformers series for Marvel Comics. He did issues number 36 to 42, 45 to 54, 56 through 60, 63 and 64, and 67. He did this during the period of 1988 to 1990. He's going to be there all weekend and will be doing signings for fans. He's actually being presented by the online shop ages 3 and up. Man, if you're a fan of the older comics, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But if you're a fan of the newer comics, also appearing at TFCon is Jack Lawrence. He was the artist on IDW's Lost Light book.
Oh.
He will also be there all weekend. He's offering prints and commissions to attendees. Jack Lawrence is being presented by the Chosen Prime, another online dealer of Transformers figures and other toys. I really would like to get something by Jack Lawrence in my book of memories. I loved his art on that series. Another Transformers convention happening is TF Nation 2020. This is happening at the Hilton Birmingham Metropole in the UK, taking place August 14th through 16th. And Nick Roach is going to attend that convention. He has been a writer and artist, and he's actually responsible for the Wreckers saga. He was co-author of The Last Stand of the Wreckers, and as well as the artist. He almost single-handedly did Sins of the Wreckers and Requiem for the Wreckers. He's still collaborating with IDW Publishing, doing covers for their new narrative universe for Transformers comic books. So if you're lucky enough to be in the UK, man, that's the guy to get a signature from. Does anybody here take part in Free Comic Book Day?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Free Comic Book Day happens May 1st. Or no, May 2nd, 2020. It's always the first Saturday in May. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know, a lot of your local comic book retailers get random issues for free to hand out to people who make purchases, or if they're nice enough, they'll just hand them to you for walking through the door.
Yep.
And there are several levels of free comic books, but in this case, thanks to CBR.com, we actually know the 12 gold VIP level comic books that are being given away on Free Comic Book Day.
You mean you know the titles?
Yes.
Ooh, do tell.
Archie Comics is releasing Archie Blue Ribbon Presents Riverdale, The Ties That Bind, as well as a sub-story with Betty and Veronica known as The Bond of Friendship. Boom Studios is releasing a special Saban's Power Rangers Free Comic Book Day special by Ryan Parrott and Dan Mora.
Ooh, my husband will love that one.
Dark Horse Comics is teaming up with Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology and Critical Role to release Critical Role Vox Machina Origins.
Oh, I
Really?
need it.
Yes.
That's gonna be awesome.
Now, again, these are the titles that are being sent to retailers, but they don't always know which ones they're getting. So you may have to drive to a couple to find a particular book if that's what you're looking for.
Challenge accepted.
DC Comics is also releasing a special free comic book day, but they're calling it their top secret gold book. They are not saying what's within. IDW is releasing a My Little Pony Friendship is Magic free comic book day story.
Meh.
Image Comics is releasing Firepower #1 by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samnee. This is the series that Kirkman says is going to be the spiritual successor and replacement to The Walking Dead in Image Comics. Macmillan Books and First Second Books is doing Investigators Take the Plunge sneak peek. Investigators is a young age comics about alligators who are investigators.
What?
Hey, not every comic is meant for our age group, okay?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Marvel Comics is releasing an Unknown X-Men book that day. Random House Children's Books is releasing Only a Matter of Space-Time. No information on the story there, but it's definitely for young readers. 10 Speed Press is releasing Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. Appears to be a partial biography of the man himself. And Valiant Entertainment is doing a Valiant 30th Anniversary special of Bloodshot. Actually has Vin Diesel on the cover to commemorate the new movie that he's starring in.
Oh, cool.
It's also featuring an appearance by Exo Man of War in it. And last up in this dozen, Viz Media is releasing some kind of version of The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess, and Splatoon Squid Kids comedy show. They're actually adapting the manga by Akira Himekawa.
Nice.
That's a pretty good lineup.
Yeah.
There's a couple things there worth seeking out. If I had to guess what would be the real keys to that particular release, though, I would say it would probably be the Boom Studios Power Rangers special and the Dark Horse Critical Role collaboration.
Yeah.
Those would be the ones I think would be the highest demand. If you had to ask me what would be behind those two, based on buzz alone, probably the X-Men book. Those are still relatively hot. As a matter of fact, we have a story about Firepower, the series by Kirkman and Samnee we were talking about. Robert Kirkman is working with artist Chris Samnee and colorist Matt Wilson and letterer Russ Wooten for the all-new Image series Firepower. Kirkman said in a statement, quote, "Getting to create a whole new world with its own mythology and rules is always the highlight of my life. Getting to do that with Chris Samnee is definitely a high watermark in this dusty old career of mine. With a massive cast of characters populating this sprawling, globe-spanning epic, Chris has proven more than adept at handling anything I've thrown at him in the time we've been toiling away on this series in secret. Kung Fu, Fireballs, Chris Samnee, Crazy Action, Chris Samnee, Chris Samnee. What more could I say to get you excited about this book?" Unquote.
Nice.
The official solicit to Firepower reads, quote, "Owen Johnson's journey to China to learn about his birth parents eventually leads him to a mysterious Shaolin temple. The students there study to rediscover the Firepower, the lost art of throwing fireballs, a power they claim will be needed soon to save the world. Will Owen Johnson be the first person in 1,000 years to wield the Firepower?" Unquote. You know, that actually sounds like a fun mix between like 1970s Goldust Harvest Kung Fu films and Street Fighter. I'm almost sold just on that solicitation. That's actually kind of fun. One character making a return to comic books is Exo Man of War. The longtime Valiant cornerstone, really, is getting his new series in the Valiant universe starting this March. It's being written by a name I'm starting to get to know really well, Dennis Hallam. The art is by Emilio Liso. The relaunch has King Eric of Dacia evolve his abilities as XO to confront a new threat endangering the planet. You know, I've read some of the more recent volumes of Exo Man of War, and Eric really is a very interesting character. It's just that, I guess I need to go deeper into it. I saw the first volume, and it was good. I wouldn't call it groundbreaking, but maybe it's one of those characters that gets more interesting after he learns how to do several things. You know, the whole time-lost barbarian thing wasn't as interesting as I hoped, but watching him try to fight was pretty good. Last up when it comes to general comic news, Gizmodo has decided to release a best of 2019 list, in their opinion. The list itself is by James Whitbrook and Charles Pullamore, who I have both big agreements and disagreements with as far as personal tastes. I was wondering what you guys thought of this list. Die by Image Comics. The White Trees by Image Comics. Spider-Man Life Story by Marvel. Napoleon Dynamite by IDW Publishing. Nancy by United Media. That's a skip. Not a skip, just a surprise. The Girl in the Bay by Dark Horse. The Wicked and the Divine by Image Comics. Something is Killing the Children by Boom Studios. The Immortal Hulk by Marvel. Everything by Dark Horse. Bitterroot by Image Comics. Mary Shelley Monster Hunter by Aftershock. Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen by DC. Once and Future by Boom Studios. And House of X / Powers of X by Marvel Comics.
Oh, that makes 4 things I have any knowledge of.
I actually do want to read Bitterroot. According to the article, quote, Bitterroot kicked off late last year, and although they only have 3 of its so far 5 issues released in 2019, those issues and the series' first arc at large deliver one of the most compelling realizations of a world we've seen in comics this year. Balancing a tight tale of a family of monster hunters in 1920s Harlem with the stark reality of the world in that time and place, Bitterroot's examination of the Sangres is visually striking, thematically resonant, and a laser-focused meditation on the history of Black America, supported by an insightful essays and writing materials in the back of each issue that's as fascinating to read as the book itself. A comic with a clear message, it never feels overly moralizing, but simply an education as a stark and brutal as the rad-as-hell monster-fighting horror that plays out as the family goes about its work, unquote. I'm actually compelled to read that. That sounds fun.
That sounds interesting.
The Immortal Hulk I read the heck out of. I have issues of Something is Killing the Children. I just haven't stopped to read them yet. And The Wicked and the Divine started really strong, but unfortunately I put it down as I was dealing with other things, tried to pick it back up later. And it's one of those few series that I think unless you read it issue to issue, you will be lost. Like, totally lost. And I did read The White Trees by Image Comics. I thought that was a fantastic update to, medieval storytelling, sword and sorcery type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It also includes some interesting LBGT angles and a lot of adult material. Unfortunately, it was just 2 oversized issues. That's all it was. I really think this could have supported an entire series if they decide to play it out, or at least a longer mini. Die I'm a big fan of, and Once and Future I'm enjoying, but that story is nowhere near done.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, the subject of this week is West Coast Avengers 2018 by Marvel Comics. This is the reintroduction of the West Coast Avengers, except in this case they are not cast off from the main team in New York. This is more or less a bunch of kids that coalesce on the West Coast just because things are getting weird out in Los Angeles. It was written by Kelly Thompson, the art is by Stefano Caselli, the colors are by Triona Farrell, the letters are by VC's Joe Caramanga. And I will start off by saying that this Volume 1 involves a lot of side stories. I only want to talk about the 4 main issues that were encapsulated at the beginning of the book.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Just to keep things simple. And, I remember reading the first couple issues as they were out, and it amazes me how much this series pretty much reminds me of the latter seasons of the first run of the Teen Titans show on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, a little bit.
Not Teen Titans Go, just after Warner Brothers stopped getting so self-serious with Titans, and just let the writers play a little.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of these characters are pretty good in their own right, but somehow when they're interacting with each other, they get worse. It's almost like they're just built to press each other's buttons. I I gotta say I love the artwork, though. Caselli's art is fun. It has an energy I'm not used to.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the action was pretty good. It was fairly easy to tell from one moment to the next what everyone was trying to do. Although some of the first images, including Kate Bishop trying to swing around a land shark and put a wire in its mouth,
Yeah.
that looked about as awkward as I thought it might be.
And she's like, I underestimated how scary that was going to be.
Yeah. And no, this isn't like a Chevy Chase land shark. These are a bunch of sharks with arms and legs who are running down the Venice boardwalk.
It looks like T-Rex and sharks were mushed together in the wrong way. What?
It's just, it is a good description, but it is just, it's interesting to hear it out loud.
Okay.
And I really liked how the whole thing started with this weird reality show that you're not really explained in the very first few pages here, with Clint Barton trying to sit down in a chair and do that thing where he talks into the camera about the current situation. And the first thing that people ask him is about the fact that he's known as Hawkeye, and Kate's known as Hawkeye, and is that confusing?
And that
I want to
becomes
go back.
that becomes an ongoing joke.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to go back and count how many times that's mentioned.
Well, it's fair, though. It's one of my biggest complaints about DC when they have multiple characters with the same name. How the hell do you tell them apart?
Mm.
You know,
Color, height.
I just like Barton's answer. See, that just tells me you know nothing about Kate Bishop. Did you even research for these questions? Do you know how many times Kate has almost gotten killed for you people? Doesn't that just mean she isn't very good at this? What? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Where do they get you people? I swear, do you even have credentials? Credentials? I feel like you're asking these questions because you didn't watch the Santa Monica land shark footage.
Cut.
That is that is an interesting way to introduce you to the idea of land shark.
And then they show you the land shark.
Yes.
Kate Bishop riding a land shark, screaming her head off, shooting them with glue arrows. And she's trying to use wireless earbuds to call Barton while riding one of these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I also like that it's ringing and she is freaking out. Pick up, pick up. Clint, I swear if you don't pick up, I'm going to put all my arrows in your... Hey, Kate!
Yeah. He was like, hey, what's going on? Shut up and listen. What's wrong? Just shut up and listen. Land sharks.
I need help.
Need help.
Send all the help. Avengers assemble or whatever. Where is everybody? Does nobody care if the entire West Coast is eaten by giant land sharks? Help me! Kate, slow down. What's happening? Look at the damn Funsink News, Clint, and get ready!
He's like, oh, and it's on a TV behind him.
Yeah, he gets probably pulled through a star.
Yeah, the Star Portal by Miss America, or America Chavez.
America.
Probably one of the most prominent LBGT characters in all of comics right now.
I'll be honest, I'm more impressed with the name, giving it kind of giving the name back to where it came from.
Well, I mean, Miss America was a classic character in like the early versions of Timely and Marvel comics, and now that it's been claimed by this newer character, it's one of those upgrades that I feel is necessary. You know, to show that there's different types of people that embody what the name means.
Mm-hmm.
But Miss America is also definitely the heavy hitter on this eventual team.
Yeah, literally.
You know, and America has this weird kind of antagonistic relationship with Kate Bishop.
It's like a protective big sister or that best friend that will tell you exactly what you need to hear, but not in a nice way.
Well, I would liken it to a big sister relationship, except it's not a loving one. It's the case where your big sister wears a lot of unusual makeup and like wears a black leather jacket and is mean to you until the moment something bigger shows up, then they're mean to it.
That's basically what having an older sibling is like.
I am
have a
not
brother.
like that.
Neither am I.
Not like that.
Well, did you have older brothers?
No, I am the older brother.
Yeah,
Okay.
ditto.
Well, then you're...
I didn't treat
Not
my
the
younger like
stereotype.
that. I more or less just want to be left alone.
Eh.
Fuse was a character I wasn't aware of until this series, though. Johnny Watts.
Mm-hmm.
The one who could mimic any material he touches.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big introduction to me. That took a little bit for me to get used to.
Yes, agreed.
I always kind of find it refreshing to see a character with no baggage attached to him.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say no baggage. I mean, he's dating Kate Bishop.
Not
Wow.
an extended history. How about that?
Okay. Look, Kate's dating history in Marvel is already complicated. For a character that was made in approximately 2004, she has been with a few different characters.
Well, she's following the moniker pretty well.
Yeah. I just like the fact that everyone's harassing these things while Kate is leading this entire herd of land sharks in the ocean, and there she is on the beach, about to hit the water. Oh god, I did not think this all the way through.
I'm like, whoops.
And then there's the three of them back on the beach, America, Barton, and Fuse, just standing there going, wait, now she's going to be in the ocean with a bunch of giant sharks. Oh. Then America flies away. Okay, America got her. Day is saved, everyone's alive. Let's go eat.
Pizza.
Always comes back to that with when it comes to Bishop. But because she's relatively young and there just isn't enough heroes, somehow Barton convinces Bishop to create a team. And the prospective people who show up, they were funnier than they should have been.
Yes. The Dutch oven.
The Dutch oven was painful.
That was so painful. He's wrapped in a blanket.
There were so many characters here that hurt. I mean, starting with bread. He's not toast, he's bread.
So he's like raw toast?
Yeah. The diva who's only interested in Clint Barton, who Kate just tells her he's gay. The Spider King, somebody who's just covered in living spiders.
She's like, oh no, you're going to have to leave now, fast.
The Surf Doctor, who is exactly what he sounds like. The Broken Watch, who's right twice a day. The Dark Paladin, which is... It looks like a ripoff of early
Jab.
Batman.
Yeah, it's a jab.
The Scorp, who's a bro version of the Scorpion. Dr. Mole, who's kind of self-explanatory. The Silver Snowboarder was kind of a cute idea. And I do like that Kate asked, so your powers only work in the snow? Totally. So, do you think that maybe Los Angeles is not the best place for you? Duh.
Yeah.
Wolverine, some Wolverine cosplayer who rubber banded kitchen knives to his hands. And just when she's ready to give up, she looks up and says yes to the person across the desk, who is Gwenpool, who just came by to get tacos. And I do like the first question is just, wait, what team? Are we heroes or villains? Gwen, we're heroes! Oh, okay, cool, I can totally do that, no problem. I think. Okay, it wasn't until a few days later not much has happened, but suddenly Quentin Quire shows up on the doorstep with a camera crew. And Quentin Quire showing up on your doorstep is generally dangerous to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
You are talking a world-level telepath and telekinetic who has high morals but low ethics.
Yeah, it's a bad combination.
Yeah. And the camera crew is his way of bringing funding to this team. He's somehow already signed a deal to create a reality show based on Kate's new team.
Except sorry for this watching him.
Oh, of course. I mean, he's an egomaniac.
Of course.
That's an understatement.
I mean, the first time Kate is trying to tape, and then Quire and Gwen get into a fight in the background. And Quentin just lifts off like he's going to attack, and Gwen pulls out something that looks like a very short rocket launcher.
Yeah.
And somehow creates a mushroom cloud.
Yeah. But it wasn't even until the end of this first issue that this team has its first serious big test. And I wish that wasn't a pun, but it is. Because when they arrive at the beach near Santa Monica, there's a 50-foot Tigra in the ocean. And
which is also terrifying.
yeah, and yes, Tigra is an Avenger, but she appears to be very feral at this point and much larger than she should be.
Very much.
And I'm sorry, she's not 50 feet tall. She's 200 feet tall.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that Ferris wheel's 50 feet tall.
But, Choir's just kind of floating in front of her nose while America's carrying Barton up, who's trying to talk to Tigra, and it's not going well. She's just growling a lot. And when when Choir's not watching, Tigra just uppercuts him into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
She can sense,
Pompous?
Genius?
She can send Pompous or something, or I don't know. But I do like that Choir is flying over the neighborhoods, and then Gwen looks up, happens to see him, and changes her gun from very extremely lethal to cream puff.
Yes.
And fires.
Those are the
She can
settings.
do that.
Yeah, she fires some kind of bizarre weapon, or a ball that turns into this goo that makes a soft landing for Choir. And, I guess you could say Miss America's doing her best to punch down Tigra, but it's fairly well even at the moment.
Well, she's doing her best not to hurt her either.
Yeah, well, as this new version of the West Coast Avengers gathers together to decide what to do next, is when something shows up. And I say something because it's built like a supermodel that's wearing leather pants, but its head is about twice as large as it should be. And the first thing it
It
does...
reminded me of a Junior Fabio.
That's... Okay.
You're not too far off.
But its first move is to grab Kate Bishop, like give her an interesting, almost dramatic dip, and kiss her. And that's when this person introduced himself as Brodock, the biorobotic organism designed overwhelmingly for kissing. And he is going to save
called him
them.
target practice.
Gwen decides to ask the final question of that issue, and I can't repeat it because this is a family-friendly show.
Yeah.
But it's an appropriate question. I mean, they're still fighting Tigra at the beginning of the second issue, and she's getting dangerously close to the Santa Monica Pier.
Mm-hmm.
But Brodock decides to take care of the problem himself and flies up there, and I love the fact that Gwen is the one watching him fly up and just says, "Does he have rocket body feet? Cool." And the entire crew is just already convinced of what's going on here. So we're agreed that's definitely MODOK in disguise, right? Oh, 100%. Totally, definitely. How could it not be? He introduced himself as Brodock and added biorobotic organism designed overwhelmingly for kissing. And then there's poor Fuse at the end. I don't know who a MODOK is, but sure. For those unaware, MODOK is something that was created way back in, I want to say, the 60s in Marvel Comics, probably the 70s now that I think about it. He is more or less a floating head with baby arms and legs, and he is the mental organism designed only for killing. That's where his name comes from. He is telepathic, he's scientifically gifted, and utterly insane, and it varies as to whether he wants world domination or is trying to create a MODOK baby.
Mm-hmm.
Brodock is definitely one of his worst disguises ever.
Yeah.
So he just kind of announces himself as a new member of the team, and they decide it's easier to just take him back to the base rather than let him rampage because they know what he is. And when they get there, they decide to offer him a drink, and he wants any fine Pinot? He wants wine. Pinot.
Mm-hmm.
Pinot Grigio.
Okay, I don't drink wine.
It's a white wine.
So Fuse gives him a glass of something, he sips it, and Brodock claims it's delicious, and that's when Fuse says it's tap water. And Brodock says he's going to buy himself a case of it. Whatever.
It was so
Face
painful.
palm.
Yeah, but Brodock's story is that he's come to Los Angeles to build advanced image mechanics, which is a very bizarre offshoot of the advanced idea mechanics MODOK belongs to. And he's telling a story that sounds like BS as soon as he told it. Except Gwen somehow believes it. I do not understand her mental faculties.
I don't think she believes. She's just fascinated by it.
I don't know. I do love the little scene of Choir talking to the cameras. I thought Poole was just ridiculous, but she may in fact be insane. Though I suppose there's something appealing in insanity, especially if it's a choice. What's bolder than telling the world to F off through pure insanity? I may have just talked myself into something here. Oh, God. And so Kate wants to investigate advanced image mechanics while the rest of the team keeps them busy. And the rest of the team, to a man, says, "I volunteer for the raid."
All but one.
No, all of them offered to volunteer for the raid, more or less. Oh, you're right, except for Gwen, who thinks it's hilarious. She says, I can't help it. It's like watching a train wreck. I can't look away from the head, the abs, the leather pants. It's all amazing.
Yeah, she doesn't believe it. She just finds it absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, but Bishop decides that she and Barton will be the ones to check advanced image mechanics, and the rest get to keep Brodok busy. Fuse doesn't like it. Quentin Quire claims that Bishop's the worst leader. I liked America, though, who just smolders and says, I was your best friend, Kate. Best friend. I hate you and will be thinking of all the ways to murder you when you return. That's the spirit. And I did notice that when they're trying to figure out how to entertain Brodok, America was tying up her hair like somebody was getting ready to step into the octagon.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's preparing for a fight.
And the very end of that page, Brodok just flipping through the choices on the TV. Tell me more about this Weekend at Bernie's the Second. Quire throwing his head back. Curse you, Bishop!
Chavez with their faces in their hands, and Fuse does head banging the fridge.
So, yeah, Bishop and Barton break into advanced image mechanics, sorry. I do like that she's trying to open locked filing cabinets, and then Barton just kind of shoots under her arm to hit the lock.
With an arrow, and there's a little poof.
Yeah.
And she's like, did you really need an explosive? It was just a baby one. That was great.
It's amazing how it seems like everyone in the series just is making the worst possible decisions at all times.
In
And
the
then
effort to show off or flex.
Oh, who knows?
Right, but then they have like a flimsy excuse, like that'll just explain everything. Like, it's just a small explosion.
Yeah, meanwhile, back at the new headquarters that's still under construction, it seems that everyone switched from watching Brodok to watching Gwenpool and Quentin Quire get into an argument. A rather serious one about why you would watch the sequel to Weekend at Bernie's before you watch the original one.
No.
She has a reason, he's not buying it. I did get kind of surprised when Gwen just suddenly lets out, people like different things. I enjoyed the irreverent voodoo reanimation plotline as a meta-commentary on the preciousness of life. What? I said I heard you. It was an incredulous what, not an actual question. Well, I missed that. And then
And it gets worse.
they suddenly start kissing.
And everyone's like, oh no, my eyes.
Well, Brodok seemed relatively entertained, but Fuse and America were on another one of those talking to the camera segments, and America starts with, I have seen Quentin Quire making out with someone. That's my reality now. I can never go back. And poor Fuse, it's like the image is burned onto my retinas. No matter how much I blink, it's there! And when Barton and Bishop finally show up back to the base, America is already bursting out of the door and just has to go somewhere, anywhere. And I do love that Bishop left Barton to do first watch on Brodok overnight. And Barton is just sitting there lamenting in the chair. I bet $8 in my wallet. I can't get any of these jokers to spell me. In the early morning, I guess it was Quentin's job, and he decided to just take a nap. Which is very Quentin.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But Brodok finds out that he figures out that he's been found out, so he calls not just Tigra back from the ocean, but a series of kaiju-sized women who are... I don't understand why the others are monsters and Tigra is not.
Well, Tiger is just bigger, so we can recognize her because plot.
I suppose...
Well, maybe it's because she's already partially animalized, so all she had to do is just making her larger.
Yeah, I don't remember Tigra's entire origin, but I believe it has to do with an ancient curse that turned her into that. I think. But Brodok is using Tigra to carry away Kate Bishop, while the others are still gathering themselves. Except for Fuse, who was trying to hang on to Tigra's hair. And they decided to use the relative nuclear option on Tigra that could be relatively dangerous. With Tigra's mind feral, they don't know what would happen if she was telepathically shut down, but they don't feel like they have much of a choice since Tigra could destroy a significant part of the city.
Mm-hmm.
So they went ahead and shut her down. And Kate trying to get dressed while the others are getting ready to do superhero fighting was almost funny. Except the big surprise about Fuse's nose ring being made of vibranium?
Which was
Yeah.
brilliant.
That makes him dangerous. That makes him severely dangerous when he pulls that trigger.
Yes. And then when America hurls him, a human-sized, who knows how heavy, projectile of vibranium.
Well,
Yes.
it's not a matter of being heavy. It's just the fact the properties of vibranium are just going to make that even more impactful.
Yeah,
Mhm.
vibranium is a bizarre metal
Dense.
that is not just dense, though, but it creates its own vibrations depending on how you strike it. So, I mean, that means if Fuse is not careful, even at the size Tigra is, he could accidentally turn into a serious vibranium bullet that could literally buzz its way through her chest.
Mm-hmm. Oh, honestly, you could probably give Colossus a run for his money.
Yeah, as well as having the capability that if you hit him in this form, the way vibranium works, it would almost deflect most concussive blows by just kind of managing the impact due to its vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say that would make Fuse unstoppable, but he'd definitely be a very difficult target in that form. Meanwhile, America is entertaining herself by having an aerial combat fight with a dragon. And Gwenpool is trying really hard to pull off Brodok's head. As if pulling off his head would just reveal the giant head he used to be.
Oh, she's got interesting logic, so...
Is that what it's called? Because I thought it was a neuroses.
Well, she believes she's in the comic book, so...
Yeah, except her reality warping powers aren't working in this series. She used to be able to talk directly to the readers, like fourth wall break, as well as affect reality, because she's aware she's in a comic book story.
Yeah, and jump panels, apparently.
Yeah, but that's not working here. Probably because that kind of ability would kind of ruin the adventure for everybody else involved.
Right.
So her fourth breaking powers are really dictated by the writers, so...
Yeah. But towards the end of this third issue, Brodok is taking Kate Bishop back to advanced image mechanics and is using the same device he used on Tigra and all the other women there, who were former dates of his, apparently.
Awkward.
Dates that did not go well, and he decided to punish them accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Which, kind of makes him toxic, like in the early stages of the Me Too era.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
And very petty?
Yes, extremely petty.
Extremely. That's a horrible use for intelligence and science.
Well, especially since it turns out this Brodok is MODOK attempting to actually change his life, but he's not able to accept rejection at all. He had every possibility of really turning into something brand new, except he doesn't understand people.
As smart as he is, he's a terrible scientist.
Yeah. But Tigra is awake, and even though she's still 200 feet tall, the shutdown allowed her mind to reset, and she's back in control of her faculties.
And still pissed.
You would almost hope MODOK doesn't change back while she's like this, because that would be the biggest ball of yarn she could possibly have at that moment.
She would turn him into goo.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Brodok has used his device on Kate Bishop and is now calling her the Katie Hawk.
And I have to say, boo.
I didn't say I liked it. I mean, this series is purposefully written so that a lot of the things brought up are just kind of, oh god, no.
Yes.
It's cringeworthy on purpose.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the start of the fourth issue with Fuse, still in his vibranium form, trying to tell the giant fish woman monster, stop trying to eat people, you are human, I don't want to hurt you. It roars at him, and then there's that pause, and he just says, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
He gets interrupted by telephone pole-sized arrows because Brodok has brought Kate Hawk to this fight. Oh no, he didn't. They're still a neighborhood away. She just missed with one of her arrows.
Oops.
Meanwhile, Brodok's getting ready to use his telepathic abilities, and Quire's convinced Barton to tag out with him because you need a telepath to take on a psychic. And,
Naturally.
well, he's arrogant, but he's definitely not wrong.
True.
And after all, at this point, Quentin Quire is aware that he will become the eventual host of the Phoenix Force.
Mhm.
So, Barton decides to take a device that MODOK has that has reverse in Latin on it. And instead of shooting Kate with it, he decides to shoot Brodok, which transforms him back into MODOK.
Am I a nerd because I knew what that word was because I've taken Latin?
Oh, you just
You're
took
a pretentious nerd.
You just took Latin. I took a guess, and it turned out to be relatively close. I thought it meant reverse.
More or less.
But Kate doesn't want to be changed back yet because now she's on par with the other monsters that are trying to tear up downtown Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta admit, I almost laughed when she picked up MODOK ever so gingerly and gave him an old-fashioned cartoony chuck into the sun.
Minus the Clint.
Yeah. And I like Clint. Oh, okay. Well done, Katie. Katie Hawk? Then she screams something, and then there's Quire just says, pretty sure she's just said, don't call me Katie.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it was late in the fourth issue, though, that we were introduced to Fuse's sister, who I didn't know existed until this moment.
Actually, she was part of the people that try to sign up for the hero agency.
I'm aware of that, except she wasn't
right.
really introduced as anything other than Ramona at that point. So I didn't, or
Yeah,
Ramon.
right.
So I didn't know she had any relation to Fuse.
True.
But long story short, with MODOK out of the way and the device in their control, the team kind of remerges and shows up to change the women back to normal, with the exception of the dragon, who apparently likes being a dragon. And her name is Bridget, and she's a vegetarian, so she will not eat people.
And they're all like, shrug. Okay.
Yeah. Well, what can you say at that moment? Except the other women who are reversed back to their normal forms decide to form a support group for people who have been changed by Brodok. And they want to hunt down MODOK and make him pay.
Yeah,
Small club.
you need therapy.
And I do like that Clint Barton extended an offer for Tigra to join the West Coast Avengers, just like they were on the prior team together. Except Tigra ain't
She
having
laughs.
it. Yeah.
She just laughs him off.
You know. But I wish nothing but the best for you and your adorable new West Coast Avengers, Hawkeyes. I am trying not to take offense to her tone. Oh, she definitely meant offense.
Yeah.
Ah, God. And the Jimmy Kimmel thing I wasn't terribly interested in, but it was just a chance for the West Coast Avengers to introduce themselves to the world. And so many people took interest in their new team. The Eel, who is like a C-list Marvel villain. Satana, the daughter of the devil, who just apparently came to Los Angeles. Graviton, who is a classic, and I mean classic Avengers enemy.
He is scary.
Yeah. The Dutch Oven, who doesn't like being rejected either, apparently.
And then we got Madame Mask, who
Yeah.
is also scary.
She is very scary. She may not be powered, but she is a very dangerous tactician.
I am curious who that is in shadow in her panel.
Well, it's over a year old, so I can tell you who that is.
Who?
That is the mother Kate Bishop doesn't know is still alive.
Oh.
Oh.
Fun times.
Oh, God, yeah, it got really personal in the second half of the series. The series only lasted 12 months.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed, because based on this volume, this is hilarious.
Oh, I admit, it is hilarious.
I was cracking up during this read. And this is something I would gladly put on a shelf, because this is the kind of story that's good for a number of different ages. It gets to be a little bit PG-13 because of the personal relationships and some I don't want to say off-color, but definitely like towards the edge type of humor.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, most of these characters are recognizable, and the series does a good job of introducing you to both its new characters and the existing ones and whatever neuroses they have bringing with them. And it's one of the few series that really kind of crossed multiple lines in Marvel Comics. You know, America from a different dimension, the two generations of Hawkeyes, Gwenpool and Quentin Quire is a very eclectic crew of young heroes from the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of disappointed this series didn't get a bigger run. So what do you guys think? Would you put this on a shelf?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely let some other people read. I mean, it is hilarious. I did laugh very hard
It was
at this one,
pretty
but I
funny.
find that reading it was kind of slow.
Hmm. It's a little dialogue intensive because it definitely portrays itself as like a buddy comedy.
It does, and I feel this is comic pages are kind of a poor medium for that.
Maybe. I mean, for me, it worked out pretty well, but I've seen enough media where I didn't have too much trouble putting it together myself. But I'm an unusual cat, and I know that. So, anybody have anything they would like to read soon?
I'm reading one, and I don't know how many issues are out. Valkyrie,
Uh-huh.
the
Oh,
new series.
that would be fun.
It is good. And then there's another one that I'm reading. I'll get back to you. I'll make a list. I'll write it down this time.
Okay. I had to ask. I mean, let me see. The 5th issue of Once and Future should be out tomorrow, but apparently Once and Future is a 6-issue mini. So it finishes. Yeah, it finishes next month.
So I guess we get to wait. We can wait for that one.
Yeah, a little bit. I've got no problem with Valkyrie 1 through 5. What do you say, Jesse?
Sure, why not?
All right. You know, it definitely is timely considering it is one of those things spinning right out of Marvel's latest event.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? The War of the Realms.
Yes.
So, and it's also worthwhile because it crosses several points of Marvel's history, especially with Jane Foster wielding a weapon that technically came from the Ultimate Universe.
Yes.
So, that works for me. Next week we will do Valkyrie 1 through 5. Thank you everyone for showing up. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. And once again, we're doing this with wearesecondunion.com. And we hope we found more stories for you to enjoy, as well as more to refer to. If you have anything you'd like to refer to us to read, you can reach us at mspfreight, F-R-E-I-G-H-T, at yahoo.com. Thank you very much for tuning in. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
And I am Jesse.
Thank you for coming. The Cosmic Library is now closed.